It's Arthur, the Barefoot Chef. Tonight I'm going to make a seafood bisque. Now I'm going to show you where we started, where we're at. We have a pound of mussels, a half of a diced onion, and 2 new potatoes in our pot here, and we're getting this warmed up. This is going to be the start of our broth. We're not going to, it's going to be a seafood broth. We're not going to use that canned stuff. We're going to make our own. So just wanted to show you that as we're getting started. We'll be back when this is ready to strain and move to the next step. Well, stay tuned. Okay folks, while you were away, I did nothing more than add a piece of celery or two that I diced up real finely. I put the celery in there later so it doesn't overwhelm. I also took the juice from a can of diced clams and I put that in there. And the potatoes are just about done. Those potatoes are going to come out and I'm going to peel them and I'll mash them up, and they're going to be part of the base of our bisque, even though they won't be the roux. They'll be in with the roux. Trust me, it's going to be good, and we're getting close. So we'll be right back in just a minute. We're going to add some wine when we come back and just a little more water because we've reduced our stock, but it smells heavenly. We need a little more stock to make this. It's not a big dish. I'm going to make this for a couple for 2. Everybody always posts all these things where they're doing it in the big volume, and hey, it's just mom and dad. You know, maybe one child. Kids don't usually eat stuff like this. So this recipe is for 2 people. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'll be back in just a moment. While we got a few other things materializing, we'll show you about our cornmeal for our fish tonight. It's basically a little cornstarch, cornmeal, Old Bay, Tony Sriston's Cajun seasoning, garlic powder, and onion powder. And it's mostly cornmeal, but just add a little, about a tablespoon and a half of each of these to it, and it makes the most amazing thing to dip your fish in. Now tonight we're going to have some sea bass. Why does that sound familiar to you rednecks? I'll tell you why. In the movie Dumb and Dumber, the guy who harassed and give those guys hell, his name was Sea Bass. They were sitting in a restaurant. Dum-Dum threw salt over his shoulder. Next thing you know, they're in a damn hell of a mess. He had a hat on. Does anybody know what that hat said? Yeah, well, I'll tell you. Old Sea Bass's hat said, Winer, Diner, and 69er. Lord have mercy. I know he picked up a lot of women with that hat. When I seen sea bass on this pack, I went, well, this was a cod steak. It wasn't sea bass. I don't care what they named it. It was only $5 for 2 pieces. It's going to make a couple of amazing sandwiches in just a little bit. If I can find my bread. Yep, bread is hard to find in the small town we live in. So we're going to use these sausage rolls. They're soft and tender, and they'll make a great bread for our fish sandwich. In just a couple of minutes, I'm going to come back after it's 5 o'clock somewhere, and I'm going to have a cocktail. And when I come back, we're going to make some homemade tartar sauce, and then we're going to check on our seafood bisque. All right, we're going to get our potatoes and our mussels out of here because they're ready. Wow, man, that smells so good. I ain't kidding you, man. That smells amazing. So we're gonna take this, get it up out of here, sit over there and let it rest. And we're gonna add just a little red wine to this. And a little more Old Bay seasoning. About a tablespoon. Then we're going to go back to the pot we were in for just a few more minutes. We'll be back in just a minute. All right, let's make some tartar sauce, y'all. I love these little tiny dill pickles. You can buy them at the dollar store or at Walmart. And I'm just going to cut them up pretty good. This is about 1/4 cup. Cut them up to your desire. I like them a little chunky in mine. Seeing I'm a chunky boy. I hear Savannah laughing right now. Daddy, you are chunky. You need to lose some weight. I do need to lose some weight. Alright. So here is our dill pickle. Now, let's put some Japanese mayonnaise in there. It just wouldn't be right without that. We're going to add a little kosher salt. Not too much. A little onion powder. And then we're going to squeeze this lemon. See if we can't do it without getting any seeds in there. And that's going to be about a tablespoon right there. Y'all with me? All right, now let's just mix it all up. You could use sweet onions if you like that. I personally only want sweet onions in one thing, and that's a Chicago dog. All right, let's see what this tastes like. I think it needs a little more lemon juice. And just because I can, a little dill pickle juice. All right, let's get back to our other stuff. All right, we've got our mussels and our potatoes, and I took the little tiny pieces of onion and celery that have just absolutely fall apart, and I put them in there too. If I were at home where I had access to a food processor, the potatoes and the celery and the onions I'd blend till they're just pureed. But I promise you, it'll still be good. Some people like a little bit of tiny bits of potato in their bisque. Now, you can make your bisque the way you want to. The last time I checked, ain't nobody kicked me out of their house or their complex for serving them this. Now, so here's what we're going to do next. We're going to take this and we're going to put it in this holy water I've been working on for about an hour now, okay? And it is smelling righteous. So let's get started. Let's get it in there. And then I'm going to do a couple other things. Y'all just hang in there with the old man while I get get this done. Careful, you might just see me make a mess. All right, now that's out of the way. What's next? Well, I'll tell you. You see this? This is good old Lefty O'Doul's Bloody Mary mix. Now you could use some tomato paste, use tomato juice, use whatever you want. I'm going to use about 1/4 cup of this as a tomato base for my bisque. Okay? Any questions about that? No sir. Alright, now let's get this back to about a medium simmer. We're about to make some roux. Ain't gonna be long and we're gonna eat. Y'all hang in there with me. Y'all, roux is the simple and most complicated thing on the planet. Some of you are thinking, well, hell, that's a woman. And you might be right. So what I have here is 1/4 stick of butter. I've got it all melted up. I don't want it to get too hot. And now I'm going to add 1/4 cup of flour. Now don't sweat it. If you get this wrong, you can fix it. Well, let me tell you what you can't get wrong. You can't get wrong not stirring this or leaving it too hot. Okay? I've got some grease where we fried some pork chops last night. Just a tablespoon of that. Now I could have used water, but heck, it was sitting right behind me. All roux is made generally with butter or with grease. Back in the day, it was made with lard. When do you know your roux is ready? It depends on what you're using it for. I'm using this for something that I don't need it to be dark. If I were making a gumbo or a jambalaya, I would cook this a little longer and it would get darker. Basically what I'm looking right now for is to get the flour taste out. Okay, cook it long enough that it's a medium brown, and that's where we're at right now. We're pretty close, and it's smelling. When it starts smelling like nuts, then you're getting pretty close. So, any questions about the roux? If you'll put it in the comments, I'll be glad to answer you. This is just regular flour. It is not self-rising. And now I'm going to take this roux and I'm going to put it in our amazing stock that we've been working on since Moses was wearing short pants. Alright, I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, I added another 1/4 stick of butter and 1/2 cup of regular whole milk. And now we're going to let this thing sit on low and simmer for about 35 or 40 minutes to thicken up. It now has clams and mussels in it, some very tender celery, and we just want it to thicken up and make an amazing soup. And when we get back, we'll fry some fish and make some sandwiches. Folks, I'm going to tell you, I know this is a long video, but when you make this at home, you'll appreciate the fact that it's only 16 or 17 minutes long. There's our bisque, and I'm going to make a bowl of it in a minute. I've tasted it. It's damn good. It's G-A-T-A good. Over here, I'm frying our first piece of fish. Fry your fish at about 320 degrees when you're in a small pan like this. You don't want to get too hot. You'll ruin the fish and you'll ruin the grease. Hell, you might even burn the house down. So just give me a second, let me check on this fish, because I believe it needs turning over. Oh yeah. What we got here is some amazing smelling fish in the house in Mariposa, California. And that's important right now, seeing how we got wildfires out there in the yard and the whole neighborhood smells like somebody let grandma's leaves catch on fire and go too long, if you from where I come from. So let's plate this up. First thing we're gonna do is lay a piece of fish there. Lay a piece of fish there. Lord, we might not need no more on that one, but I was prepared when I bought this to give this one a little extra love. Now, speaking of love, how about some of that tartar sauce? I'm not gonna put any on Karen's yet, because sure as I do, she won't want it. Hang on a second while I make a plate. I'm gonna put a piece of lettuce on this, and I'm gonna show y'all how good this is. Y'all watch this. Folks, it don't get no better than this. You can do this with catfish. You could do this with crab. You could do this with shrimp. You could add more tomato to it, and it would have a more tomato taste, and it would also change the color a little bit, you know. Look at that sandwich right there, y'all. Lord have mercy. Let me get that thing on my plate. Y'all see that? I ain't gonna try to eat it. I'm not. It means more editing for me. Y'all went a whole video without seeing my old fat ugly face. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. That right there is to die for. And that is too. You can't beat it. Do you want one of these tonight for supper? Or tomorrow or the next day? It's a little more work, but follow the recipe, y'all. It ain't hard. It just takes a little while to make that roux and to separate the things you're going to put in it. Well, y'all, thank you for joining me, and thank you for supporting the Barefoot Chef. And we want to ask you to join us here again next time as we cook greatness. This week coming up, football tailgating food, Georgia Southern style. We'll see you soon on the Barefoot Chef.